So, we're talking here today about third party validation, and this is the last in our series on gaslighting. We got an exciting series coming up about communication, where we'll be walking you through some of the key principles of working through communication when you are in conflict. But today, we're talking about this important topic of third party validation. When someone is gaslighting you, what you really need is third-party validation. And this is crucial for you not to lose your way when you're experiencing this. So I hope that you'll continue watching. We'll see you in just a moment. Karen.
It's not the first time you've messed up my name.
No, I didn't mess up anything. So, hey, I want to know. I want to talk just a moment about this. Is that how about working through this series on gaslighting? Just your general thoughts about it. I don't need any specifics, but has it been beneficial? Have you gained new insights? Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I think it's been beneficial. And I think that if you haven't been watching them, it's worth your time to go back and watch them.
There you go, man. I can't get a more ringing endorsement than that. So, all right. So, what we've been doing is that we have these little reaction videos that we have been using some of Dr. Henry Cloud's stuff. And I'd recommend, he has a lot of good content, and you can find him on the web, and you can find him on Amazon, and you can find him on YouTube, and you can find him everywhere, And so, but I would recommend you take a look at what he has to say and consider subscribing to his program that he has. But in the meantime, we want to spend a little bit of time with a reaction video on one of his topics or one of his observations. And so let's go ahead and we'll jump into that right now.
Here's the big one. You've got to talk to some trusted people. Now, by this, I don't mean triangulate in terms of, this happens all the time, that people will go in and just really kind of almost do the same thing, go over there and paint an unreal bad picture to get somebody on their side. You need somebody you can trust that can actually help you, find out what true reality is. And so, but we need outside validation. This is where a good friend, a trusted other, especially a therapist who's used to this stuff and can read through the, BS, be able to see it, be able to interpret it, be able to help you know what to do. You've got to look, I said humans need validation. The human you're in a relationship with is a gaslighter is invalidating you. You need some validation. Go tell them what happened. This is what happened. Am I crazy? And they'll say, that's abuse. Or that's not okay what they're doing. You go, well, I kind of felt like something was wrong with it, but he told me that no, you need outside validation. You have some way to write it down or go make a memo for yourself. And then take that diary, like I said, and share it with somebody, get their coaching on it. Always protect yourself from abuse. If you're being physically abused, you got to get help. You got to go to a shelter. You get somebody, because that can get very dangerous. Some gaslighters are very, very, very toxic, malignant, and even evil in what they do to people. And you never know where it's going to go. And if you're in danger of that, get some help. You got to have some safe places already lined up. Even not when there's physical abuse, sometimes when you learn to set boundaries, and say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable in this conversation right now. I'll be willing to talk about it with our therapist, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to go in the other room, or I'm going to go over to Susie's house for the night. Have those safe places lined up, or have somebody that you can call They're your safe team that you can call and say, here's what just happened. Talk me out of my confusion here. And then obviously always doing a lot of self-care. You need to be nourished and filled up yourself. But have a plan. What you're going to do when they say this. Now, if you go to boundaries.me, I have a whole course on this, many, many courses on the specifics of responses and scripted responses where you can practice and role play and get equipped. But there's a big skills building component to dealing with gaslighters.
There you go. So he covers a lot of territory there, but really it boils down to one key idea, and that's finding third-party validation. How about for you, when you go through this, what are some of your thoughts, observations, comments about what he has to say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had an experience growing up where I was dating a guy who was gaslighting me. And it wasn't until I started getting party validation that it started going like, okay, this is wrong. Like, uh,
Because you
um,
certainly wouldn't listen to your parents.
well, no. And the bummer about it was as long as my parents were the ones saying, oh, he's no good for you and all this kind of stuff, it only made me have to defend him to you guys. And
Yeah,
I was doing the same thing on the other side, defending you guys to him.
yeah,
But
there you go.
once I was able to kind of like look at it objectively or step out of it and say, like, okay, it's not just, well, one of the things that did help is mom bought this like book about, I don't remember, it was a Dr. Laura Schlesinger book or something like
Yeah, I remember her
that. I
back
can't
in the
remember.
days. That's a long time ago. You're dating yourself. I don't even know if she's still alive.
She bought this book and I can't remember what it was, but it was like stupid things women do or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And one of the things that she said is you got to stop. Like, that's when mom kind of like backed off. You guys kind of backed off. But anyways, this is a tangent. You threw me for a little bit of a loop. I wouldn't listen to my parents, but no, I wouldn't listen to my parents when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
The anyways, but I started taking what that guy was saying and
Mm-hmm.
going, okay, is everybody lying to me or is he
Yeah.
lying to me?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And um, and when I just started, like, it was everything from he was getting good grades. I found out he failed high school. I had to call his mom to find that out, and I did. I called his mom and asked to talk to her, and I asked what his grades were, like, because I was just living in this lie. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started pulling the thread, and that's what I did in my last situation where I was being gaslit, is I started pulling the thread, and then you start seeing, like, okay, the whole thing is
Oh, boy,
to
yeah.
unravel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which is very what kind of one of those things. Well, as it's unraveling, you're kind of scrambling, like, oh my gosh, my
Yeah.
whole world, everything I believed is starting to unravel as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So although it is really important to get third party clarification, it also isn't necessarily easy, and it kind of starts the snowball to,
Yeah.
in motion. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And the third party, I mean, a lot of times what we do, and Dr. Cloud talks about this early on in his video about triangulation, and he
Yeah.
says it's kind of like reverse gaslighting is really what it is, because with triangulation, what we're doing is that we're just really kind of like attacking the other person,
Hmm.
and and enlisting their support to be
Right.
on our side. And
Yeah.
there's a great Bible passage in the book of Judges where and the angel of the Lord appears to Joshua, and I think that I got this reference correct. And Joshua asks the angel of the Lord, he says, "Whose side are you on?
Hmm.
Are you, our enemies or our side?" And he says,
Hmm.
"Neither." And I
Hmm.
thought this, really, oh man, it's so cool because we need somebody who is not on either side. We need somebody who can speak to what's healthy and what is good and righteous, and you know, a growth path, rather than just saying, oh yeah, he's bad and you're good.
Right.
You
Right.
know. So
Yeah. Yeah. And like, although I was saying that it's hard and it kind of starts a snowball or whatever, the harder thing is to live in a life where you're being gaslit, and typically speaking is that if you continue in that relationship, the longer it goes, the worse things are going to get, and it might become physically abusive more than just the verbally and the psychologically. Gaslighting is psychologically abusive.
oh, it is. It's really a nefarious technique that people use. I think
Mhm.
sometimes they don't. I think sometimes they're not really aware of it. I think that part of it, in all honesty, serves their effort to control.
Mhm. Oh
You
yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
so and in their head they have it mapped that what I'm doing is seeking what's good,
Mhm.
rather than and so they kind of like cross the line, across the you know the boundary from doing what's good to just making sure that they win. Essentially, they get their
Right.
way. So
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more some of the reasons why we need third party validation. Give me a couple others.
Well, yeah, I know that he didn't mention this in this session, but in the
Mm-hmm.
previous one, he mentioned don't get disillusioned by the cookies, kind
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think it's easy to say, oh, well, they brought me flowers, so they're really not that bad of a person. And
Mm-hmm.
a gaslighter isn't like the most horrible
No.
person that you've ever met, but they're very tricky. And so getting third party validation gives you also like the ability to like look at it objectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things when you mentioned control,
Yeah.
um, one of the things that gaslighters do a lot of times is they kind of get you to places where you become more and more isolated. And so
Mm-hmm.
you don't go out very much, you don't have a lot of friends. And so it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
know like who you can go for third party validation uh,
Mm-hmm.
to. But I know for me, I had to say, like, even though I had gotten into that situation where I didn't have hardly anybody that I was hanging out with or anything at that point, because I had he had me focusing all of my attention and energy towards him.
Yeah.
And
Only in
that,
always.
yeah, I had to like tell myself, hey, even though you've kind of turned your back on all these people,
Mm-hmm.
that you need them right now to get yourself out of this. And so like I kind of had to like eat a little bit of humble pie and go back to people that I had stopped hanging out with,
Mm-hmm.
stopped listening to, and come back around and go like, okay, I realized he is blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and so your old support system is probably eager for you to return back to them
Mm-hmm.
if you've gotten to a place where you're like isolating and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We need people in our lives who can speak from an objective perspective, rather than
yeah,
because when we're involved in that relationship, in that dyad,
hmm,
that that and particularly when it just becomes that relationship,
hmm,
is that we're not able to see clearly beyond it. And like you
yeah,
say, that the person that we're involved with is not someone who's all bad, and they have a lot of wonderful characteristics about them, and and there's a lot of things that attract us to them, and
hmm,
so it's easy to kind of fall for that, and
Yeah.
particularly as you lose your support system, that it just becomes this, they become the source for all of your emotional well-being. But we
Yeah.
need that objective, and we also need someone in our life to encourage us to take action.
Yeah.
I know in the course of my ministry is that I've dealt with some women who really, really were in the place where they needed to seek sanctuary. And I'm talking about, get out of the relationship completely. And there are organizations in town where you can go and, because a lot of times people are afraid. They're
Yeah.
afraid of what's going to happen. I know one lady, quite honestly, that she was in a relationship where her husband was just all about making money and controlling the money. They eventually divorced, and we had talked about issues with respect to a fair settlement, and she had legitimate concerns that if she sought a fair settlement, that he would kill her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you never know about.
Yeah.
But in that case, somebody needs to, a person needs sanctuary. The problem that with that is oftentimes they're too afraid to leave the trappings of their comfortable life behind and go into a seclusion somewhere. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like witness protection. Sometimes you got to do it for your own personal survival.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, no amount of the security or things that have been built up around you, like or in that lady's case, the money is worth,
yeah,
like, so, hey, okay, if you can't get a settlement with them and feel like that you're going to be safe, then it's not worth it to, that's not worth it.
yeah.
You'll find other ways, you'll figure out other things, but you can't do that if you're dead.
Yeah.
But,
How true is that? So,
but
so
I know.
go
And
ahead.
just one more thing is that like you got to kind of like think back, what was it life like before this person,
Hmm.
and kind of like find your you again. Who were you before you were with this person?
Yeah,
And
that's good.
it's
I
like
like
really,
that statement. You need to find your you again.
yeah.
You know, one of my clients, I'm not so certain that they have found their you
Hmm.
yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're working on that,
Hmm.
but it's
Yeah.
always a challenge.
Right.
So, hey,
Yeah.
it's been a cool experience. Thank you for being with
Mhm.
me on this journey of gaslighting and all. Like I say, that the next time around, we're going to start talking about how to have effective conversations with people that you're in conflict with.
Mhm.
Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, I think that's probably it.
All right, cool. So, well, let me go ahead and do just that. And I want to remind folks. I want to remind folks that we have this whole program called Beyond Betrayal, and the website that's listed there doesn't take you to the group. That just has some of our content on how we approach this process of helping people to discover how life can be good again beyond betrayal. But you can find our group on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group, and it's at beyondbetrayal.org on Facebook. There are a lot of Beyond Betrayal groups on Facebook, but ours is the only one that is beyondbetrayal.org. And so you might want to just check it out, submit your request to be a part of the group. And that's where we post all of our content so that you'll never miss out on anything that we're talking about there. So that's it for now. I hope that you'll I hope that you will join me for our next broadcast when we start our whole series on communication. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.